Hey, what's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. Hope you're all doing great today because we've got a massive Warframe update to talk about. The Vallis Undermind update, also known as Update 2.44 on consoles. And I'm not exaggerating when I say this might be one of the biggest content drops Warframe's had in a while, especially for those of us who've been wanting something new to explore beyond the usual missions and open worlds we already know by heart. So let's talk about everything this update brings, how it feels to actually play through it, and what's worth your time right out of the gate. So first things first, the Vallis Undermind update introduces a brand new area called the Deepmines. Now, if you've spent any time wandering around the Orb Vallis in Fortuna, you're probably used to the wide open snowfields, the hovering Corpus ships, and the endless supply drones flying overhead. This new area flips all of that upside down. Instead of open air combat and wide sightlines, you're heading beneath the surface into a more claustrophobic, eerie, and strangely beautiful underground environment. It's got that mix of bioorganic weirdness that Warframe does so well. Glowing mushrooms, industrial machinery, fungal growths, all blending together into this alien atmosphere. It kind of feels like Warframe meets a twisted alien cave system. You'll get there through Fortuna, like usual. After finishing the new war quest line, you'll find a new NPC called Nightcap, hanging out near the airlock area. She's your new vendor, your mission contact, and your overall guide to this whole underground expansion. Once you talk to her for the first time, a new bounty hub opens up, and you'll start getting access to Deepmines missions. These aren't your traditional open-world bounties where you roam freely on an archwing or a K-drive. This is a more structured zone. Think of it as something halfway between an open-world hub and a dungeon. You can't use vehicles here, which immediately changes the pacing. It's slower, more deliberate, and kind of forces you to focus on combat and exploration rather than just speed-running objectives with a Volt and a launcher. And speaking of objectives, Nightcap's Deepmines bounties are genuinely interesting. You'll be gathering a new resource called Fergolyte, which is this crystalline fungal substance that's tied to most of the new crafting recipes. You'll also be meeting a new Corpus subfaction called the Scrofa, which has its own set of enemies. New crewman variants, Moas, Rachnoids, even a new Bursa type. The Corpus already have a strong visual identity, but these Scrofa units are a bit more rugged, dirtier, and more experimental, like they've been working in these underground facilities for too long. It's a nice shakeup from the pristine corporate look we're used to from standard Corpus forces. Now, along with all this new content, we also got a brand new Warframe named Nokko. And let me just say, this frame is wild. Nokko is themed around psychic energy and multi-element manipulation. Its kit is centered on combining elements and channeling them into explosive effects, which makes it feel a little bit like Lavos and Siren had a strange, energy-based child. The signature weapon that comes with it is the Arbucep Archgun, which fires 6 homing missiles that each combine different elemental types depending on how you mod it. You can get Nokko's blueprints and parts from Nightcap's bounty rewards, or of course buy the frame outright if you're feeling impatient. But honestly, I recommend farming it. It's actually a fun grind this time. What's cool is that the Deepmines area isn't just about bounties and farming. There's also a more narrative-driven system involving something called the Prince. It's a mushroom, yes, a literal mushroom that you feed with Fergolyte to unlock these things called visions. These are short story snippets that expand the lore of the area and maybe hint at where Warframe's universe is heading next. If you've been missing that feeling of mystery and weirdness that early quests used to have, this scratches that itch in a big way. It's the kind of lore that feels cryptic, but rewarding. You're piecing together fragments, reading between the lines, and realizing there's more going on beneath the surface than it first appears. For newer players, this update also sneaks in a fresh early game quest called the Teacher. It's a smaller quest line, but actually a really solid addition for helping beginners understand how modding and loadouts work. Teshin takes the spotlight here, walking you through some of the game's fundamental mechanics. Finishing it rewards you with a new weapon, the Thornback Rifle, which is a great starter gun for people who are still building their arsenals. For veterans, it's not a huge deal, but it's still worth doing just for the completion aspect and a bit of extra lore. Now let's talk about the overall feel of this update, because it's important to understand how it changes the usual Warframe rhythm. Most of us have gotten used to flying through levels at Mach speed, clearing maps before the enemies even spawn. The Deepmines slows that down. You have to think about positioning, use your abilities strategically, and pay attention to your surroundings. It's not difficult per se, but it's immersive. The lighting is moody, there's fog hanging in the air, fungal spores floating around, and machines humming in the background. The art team clearly went hard here. The environment feels alive, which makes exploration actually worth doing again. If you're wondering about the technical side of things, the update is hefty. It's around 5 to 6 gigabytes depending on your platform, and it comes with a broad remaster of existing meshes, meaning things look sharper and smoother across the board. Lighting has also improved a bit in other areas, even outside of the Deepmines. So if your game suddenly looks cleaner or your textures seem crisper, that's not just your imagination, it's part of the update. Now I want to take a second to talk about Oberon. Yeah, our pal the Forest Knight got a full rework this patch, and honestly, it's about time. His kit has been a bit outdated for years, never bad, just kind of middle of the road. This rework gives him a new flow and a lot more synergy between his abilities. Renewal feels faster and more responsive, Hallowed Ground got some tweaks, and his damage output finally feels respectable in Steel Path content. He's even got some new animations and ability scaling that make him worth revisiting if you shelved him ages ago. And for the cherry on top, there's a limited time login reward window running for a week where you can claim Oberon and his stuff for free, which is a nice gesture from Digital Extremes. As for cosmetics, Warframe being Warframe, we got a couple of fresh deluxe skins. Lavos Chimia and Wukong Kition are the stars of this round, and they both look fantastic. There's also new Tennogen content and some fresh weapon skins sprinkled in. If you're into Fashion Frame, and let's be real, most of us are, there's plenty to play around with here. Events are also ramping up again. Knights of Nabarus has returned and runs until early November, which means new items, spooky cosmetics, and the usual event rotations. There's also a new Nightwave season starting soon called Dreams of the Dead, which seems to tie in with some of the new story themes introduced in the Deepmines. Expect the usual set of challenges, exclusive cosmetics, and maybe even some new mods if we're lucky. So, how should you actually approach all this if you're logging in after a break? I'd recommend starting with the Deepmines. Talk to Nightcap, run her first few bounties, and get familiar with the layout of the area. The early bounties are great for farming the Fergolyte resource and unlocking your first field guide ranks. That'll also give you access to new blueprints, Nokko parts, and gear that's essential for the rest of the content. Once you've got a handle on that, you can start exploring the Visions content to piece together the lore, and if you're interested in the new frame, begin the farm right away. It's not too grindy compared to past updates, which is a huge relief. For the gameplay experience, I recommend bringing a frame that can handle tight spaces and multiple enemy waves, something like Wisp, Protea, or even a well-built Frost or Gera. Since the Deepmines don't allow Archwings or Necromechs, mobility frames can still shine, but you'll need to rely on parkour and clever positioning more than raw speed. Bring a solid crowd control setup or something with sustain, because the fights can get chaotic in enclosed spaces. One thing that stood out to me while playing is how much atmosphere this update brings back to Warframe. The game has always had great combat and insane mobility, but lately, it's been missing a bit of that sense of discovery. The Deepmines feels handcrafted to bring that back. The sound design, the environmental storytelling, even the random chatter from Nightcap, it all adds up to something that feels new yet still perfectly Warframe. It reminds me of when we first got to explore Deimos or Fortuna years ago, but this time the scale feels tighter, more controlled, and narratively focused. Now, before I forget, there's already been a hotfix version 40.1, which cleaned up some early issues with bounty objectives and performance bugs. So if you jumped in early and things felt a bit off, you might want to update and give it another try. Digital Extremes usually drops several quick patches after big updates, so expect more tweaks over the next few days.